By the way, we do have a guest today and they just jumped on. So like, I know we got a whole bunch of topics, but one of the things that's exciting about this show and the inspiration for us to even do this is back in the day, I used to have a show called Video Influencers where it interviewed creators. Great. Loved it. Very successful. Sold this book right here. 140,000 sold, which is pretty dope. So mission accomplished, Sean. I think we can like celebrate. We've never like really celebrated. But then the next show, this one, Creator Secrets, comes from Clubhouse during 2020 when we all jumped on because we were all locked down in our homes. And so I wanted to bring more people on because what I loved is during the pandemic, I was able to answer everyone's questions because I kind of felt lonely. I was in the studio all by myself, even mutually. We were working remotely, which was that was a huge another story, that huge benefit, right, to the pandemic, learning how to work remotely, run this thing. So I'm excited today because we're finally having a guest that's not like a proper interview guest. This is just somebody that had a question. It's like, hey, I'm busy during the day. If you want to ask me questions, then jump on the show and you can ask. And it's obviously going to be creator related unless he's going to ask me about like cooking or something, which I highly doubt. But yeah.
Yeah. So this is the segment of the show that we call hashtag Ask CSP. If you have a question for the show and you don't get the opportunity to call in, you can use the hashtag Ask CSP or email hello@vlogging academy and we will answer your questions. But we have, as Benji said, a guest live to go to right now. Welcome, Corteezyy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
By
Hello,
the way,
guys.
first off,
I guess.
say anything.
Yeah, I want Benji to
I want
introduce
to
you.
introduce you. Okay. So I've been doing this a very long time. And one of the problems of that is you might not see the creator economy, platforms, content creation with the same fresh eyes. And so I always love connecting with younger creators, not just like age-wise, but like just new to it. John Corteezyy is probably one of the most well-known Seattle-based creators. Shout out to Seattle. Yeah. I know that you're a Eagles fan, which I'll forgive you for, but he lives in Seattle, reps. But he is known as the guy you follow if you want to know about what's going on in Seattle. And so I have connected with John. We've become friends. I oftentimes answer his creator questions. So today, John is giving us his time, and he saved his question rather than ask me on the phone for this show. So, John, thank you so much for being on Creator Secrets today.
No, of course. Thank you guys for having me. So my question actually, it comes from the community itself. So there was a smaller content creator, I guess. What's the proper way to say it? They're just just a smaller content creator who's a newer content creator whose video blew up in the city, and she was just talking about how that there's certain agencies coming into Seattle and reaching out to all creators, but not all creators are getting paid the same. And she's saying like there's such a discrepancy, I think that's the word, where it's like where they're everyone's putting in the exact same amount of work, but the bigger creators are getting paid versus the other ones are just getting, let's just say, not even like free tickets to whatever. Let's for as an example, in her video, and she was just kind of just frustrated, like, hey, like I know we only have like maybe 5,000, 10,000 followers compared to like the really big ones. She was just trying to say like, hey, like we should unite as creators and actually get compensated. And I guess she was just coming from an aspect of like kind of frustrated because she thinks that agencies are like taking advantage of them. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would break this up into two-part answer. Number one, this is just capitalism at work. If you're willing to do more work for less pay, guess what? The brands are going to want to work with you. So that's just how it is. That's not going to change. And in fact, me being on YouTube, long form vlogging, to see TikTok creators blow up, and there's just so many more creators, it competed against us and our rates. Even if I had a judgment, guess what? I was at peace with it because, hey, short form creators are kind of like the trendy thing. A lot of people are scrolling through and they were just getting a lot of opportunities. So accepting that and knowing that. And this is why the second part of my answer is really important. That's why creators need to connect with each other. That's why a show like this, or back in the day, having the, what do we call it, Clubhouse, was like super valuable. Not just the public rooms for everyone to listen to, not just creators, but people that were interested in becoming creators, but private rooms where you connected with creators one-on-one or in like, small groups. John, I like to put on creator events in Seattle. And so we just had our first big one, the Seattle Creator Summit. There was about 65, 70 creators there, and it's super valuable. So guess what? We can share our stories. We can even share our rates that we charge, so we know we're not undercutting each other. Now, it doesn't change the first part of my answer. People might hear your rate and be like, I want to compete against John, so I'm going to go a little bit lower than him, right? It's like, but guess what? That is okay. And this is why, as a creator, you have to understand, number one, what is it that you're doing? Like, what kind of content are you creating for who are you? Okay. Secondly, what makes you different? And then 3, what is your value? So the thing about John, if a lot of people don't know, if there's any breaking news in Seattle, if there's any experiences, if there's any Seattle related topics, like, he is the man. I don't know anybody that even comes close. We'll be walking around downtown, or he'll just be like some random spot and people know his name. And that is valuable. That is valuable in itself. Great engagement. And guess what? He shows it in person, does live events, and he can have 300 people buy all the tickets and show up. I've actually been there. So this is not all talk. If I'm a brand and I know that about John, when he charges more money, because he is valuable, he's a creator that I think has a lot more engagement, because not only are they engaging, look at his comments, look at how people address him or connect with him on the street.
Yes.
But show up to his events and pay money to get in. There might be this other creator that might get a lot of views, but maybe they're not getting engagement. Maybe they don't get people to show up. So understanding what is your unique value proposition, not only to your audience, but also to a brand, is really important. So this other creator that's voicing their concern, or they're stressed out, or maybe they're even like complaining about it, it's better to understand this and be at peace with it, and then connect with other creators. Because vice versa, guess what you can do? Maybe that other person that's undercutting you, like charging a lot less, they just don't know. John, how many times have we talked about something that you're like, oh, there's no way, no, like, that's not going to happen to me. No, well, he didn't say this, but like, when I first connected with him, he wasn't putting on his own events. He was hosting other people's events, but he believed he could. So guess what? A month ago, whatever, he threw one of his first bigger events and then sold out. So that was just purely, and it's not like I am smarter than him. It's just I've had experience doing this stuff. So I knew, based off his views, based off his engagements, like, yeah, if you throw an event and you're confident you can throw one of the event, it's totally going to happen. That chemistry, that conversation is going to lead to us valuing ourselves a lot more and charging the right rates. And that can happen across the board. The thing about the brand world, because they usually just work by default through agencies, they tend to know not only what the rates that they should be paying and how much they could get away with, but also they are more strategic. They're better at negotiations. As creators, we got to be doing the same thing too. I'm not the only person that has done this. This is not unique to me. Forever, creator events were the destination where people want to go so they can connect, learn from each other, help each other out, collaborate. And because of that, it's like this weird tension between the brand world and the creator world. We obviously work together. Brands pay for us to create content, and then we, accomplish some kind of, conversion, right? Whether it's showing up at an event, selling a product. But if you're completely by yourself, especially if you're a beginner, entrepreneur, you have no clue. So then you're going to get this situation. It's like, yeah, I'm doing all this work. I know I get way more engagement and than them, but they won't charge me. They won't pay me more because this other person is charging a lot less. By the way, all that kind of like evens itself out. But initially, it can be really difficult because then guess what you do? You start thinking, maybe I should lower my rates. I don't think you should lower your rates until you see that there's enough people competing that you might have to do. Me, I lean into what am I valuable at so I can raise my rates. And that's what John Corteezyy does. He's somebody that really stands apart. So that's the quick answer to your question.
Yeah.
Just know that this ain't new. This was how it was in 2008, and it's going to be like this in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk a lot about is that, creators get in it for the creation 99% of the time. They want to go and they want to be the creatives, the connectors. They want to have a social presence. They want to be a leader in their community. And accidentally, a lot of times, they fall backwards into the entrepreneurship side of things. And like Benji said, a lot of these things are truly just products of capitalism. It's just like any other small business, right? It's the same as two businesses competing for customers. It's the same as two restaurants trying to serve the same dish on the same corner, right? And so all of those things come into play with creators. And that doesn't mean that you need to look at each other in a negative light, which is maybe some of that kind of feeling of anger around agencies that you're describing there, John. Mm-hmm. To me, it is actually a really beautiful thing about the creator community that Benji brought up first and foremost, which is that there's a lot of support of each other and sharing of knowledge, right? And in reality, there's so much abundance to go around that sharing of knowledge can really only ever help everybody else, which I think is very powerful. Yeah. And so that the connecting with people that you brought up, I think is very crucial. And B, doing so in a really transparent and honest way, not being afraid to have the kind of hard conversations is the piece that can sometimes be missing even when you do connect. And so that I mean, I don't have a ton to add, frankly, but that is where I fall.
Yeah, and John, I actually want you to maybe reply back or ask me another question. But the quick thing I'll add to this is I don't look at other people as competition because I'm not competition.
Exactly.
I've always carved my own path so that when I charge my unique rates, even if they are higher, even if they might be a premium, price, it's justified because my connection, my engagement, my relationship with my audience is so strong that when a brand, company, or business wants to reach that customer base or people that potentially could sign up for their service, product, or whatever, that it's justified because of that. And no one else has that. And that's why if you just copycat everybody else, then you're no one. But if you're your own thing, this is why it's so cheesy. Be uniquely you. Be whatever's authentic to you. Guess what? That's actually a good thing because you end up having an audience that's unique to you in terms of the connection. So any other thoughts? I mean, what do you think when I say that?
Me? No, I think you're 100% right. I think they were coming at it. I think it's because I think Seattle right now is going through a creator boom.
Growing.
I think, there's actually a lot of content creators coming up. I've seen it, and I think a lot of the motivation happened this year with a couple people blowing up, like me included, and then with the World Cup, I think a lot of people were just pushing hey, create because the World Cup is coming. It's gonna be a boom of tourism. They're gonna be searching everything where to go. So I think everyone's good, you guys are right. So there has been a boom of creators, but with that comes with a lot of people don't know how to maneuver once, you said, we create because we enjoy it, but then you fall back into we do go into becoming an entrepreneur because that's just the default, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make money doing what we love to do and from our content that we create. So you have to think about money. You have to kind of to a certain degree build a business, and you fall back into being an entrepreneur. I learned that actually term from Austin.
Well, and one of the things too, one of the things you were mentioning, Corteezyy, was the idea of agencies, right? And that is where the agency play, I think, comes in a lot of ways, right? In the sense that the agencies are often there, and I mean, it depends because agencies are just as variable as creators are, right? In terms of their attitude, their willingness to help, their philosophies,
who they really represent.
Exactly. And so it's hard to parse that. It's not like someone gives you a textbook and they have all these things to find out and a perfect map of everything that's going on. And
they'll tell you whatever to get your business.
That's exactly right. Right. And they're running a business too, right? They're trying to make their buck. Right. And so but the agencies are there. And the reason they exist is because they promise to solve some of those business problems for talent who, maybe sometimes don't have that background as well.
Or don't want to fall into entrepreneurship.
Or don't want to, which is 100% valid, right? And so, I kind of want to hear more about what your questions are about agencies, or maybe what this person was asking about with agencies, because obviously Benji and I have a lot of thoughts about it. We're kind of beginning our own agency. So, we're obviously not entirely anti-agency.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about what else was there about the agency side of things.
Yeah. I guess she was just, her complaint or frustration was, why is it that only big content creators are getting paid?
Yeah.
Why? And she's like, she's like, we're showcasing the exact same thing. We're both going to the exact same event, but one's getting paid and one isn't. And she's like, if we just connected as all creators, I think we should all get paid. And she was like, not obviously, like, she understands one has a following, but she's like, we should at least get paid at least $50 compared to doing it for a free ticket.
Yeah.
And so, and then I just know the comment section in that video was like all the Seattle creators talking amongst themselves, and a lot of the upcoming, like I was saying, the upcoming creators were feeling the same way. Like, hey, like, there's these big content creators coming to the exact same events and they're getting paid. So it was just like, so that's what the discourse of right now in Seattle is like.
So the real question is, how do you get paid money versus doing things for free?
Yeah,
that
true.
is the real question. Okay. Yeah. And number one, if you get paid $50 or you get paid $500 or you get paid nothing, that is 100% your responsibility. It's your fault. It is yours to own. And the reason these other people get to charge premium rates is because they asked for it. Now, they asked for it and they maybe package up the rate and do certain things in a way where it's justified, versus the other person, they might ask maybe even a cheaper rate thing. Oh, I'm definitely going to get this because I'm charging a lot less than this other guy who's charging like 10x more. And then they get nothing and they end up doing it for free. How does that work? That's why I answered the question in the first question that you asked. That answer is capitalism. So people do different things. They do the same thing differently. Okay. And how you do it really matters. Who really matters. Like the way you negotiate, the way you have a conversation, the way you present yourself, all those kind of things. So you might be thinking like, yeah, if they charge this much and I get the same amount of views, same amount of engagement, we start around the same time, like I should get the thing. That's just not how it works sometimes. Okay. And then it's your job to figure out, how do I go from having to do everything for free to getting paid? One of the number one reasons why people don't get paid, because they started by doing everything for free. Now, guess what? I started doing things for free at the very, very beginning, and I had to crawl my way through. But I always knew, right? Like I was going to do it more and more. But these days, and you're somebody that probably can speak to this. If you're getting views and you're getting engagement and it takes a certain amount of time to create that content, and they would, when I say they, the brands or a business, have to hire people, right? Set aside creators. They have to hire people or a production company to create it for them, or they would have to spend time and they would have to pay money to their employees to create that content. Well, inherently in the content creation process, there's a value there. So if you stack that with all the views and everything, you can justify the rates. But why are you not getting the rates? That is the real question. And there's just so many variables to go through. This is why connecting with creators that can coach you on how to do this is really helpful. Being in the right agency that represents you. But I think before any of that is like, you got to believe I'm worth the money. Now, this is going to sound like frou-frou, like all inspirational, like, motivational. You just got to be rah, and think positive. It's all actually true. Because the reason you're doing things for free is because you might have said, oh, I'm worth $500. And they'll, no, but actually we got this for a trade deal over here with these people. And you're like, oh, they did it for free? Yeah, I'll do it for free, but maybe you can give me like an extra ticket to the whatever, right? And then you say yes to that. And you don't think that much of it. You're like, oh, that's an isolated conversation. That was just for this one project. I'll get it on the next one. The worst is when that brand's like, hey, on this deal, we don't have a budget, but we'll get you on the next one, right? I've heard that so many times. You accepted that. You accepted that negotiation. So most people, they don't like rejection, so they want to do something. They think like doing something is like moving forward. No, creating great content that people like, and then they follow you or subscribe to your YouTube channel, that's what matters the most. The brand deals, and this is going to sound really pretentious, they're lucky to work with you. You especially, John, right? And I know there's a lot of creators, not just you, in Seattle that are doing great stuff and getting paid to do it and getting a lot of opportunities. The brands and businesses are lucky to work with you. At the same time, you're also lucky to have opportunities to work with them. So the ones that don't get paid, they just kind of fall into this like maybe this path where that inevitably becomes like the norm for them. So remember I said, oh, you think it's just kind of isolated? Nothing's isolated. Just like you and I talk about different stuff in the creator economy, guess what? Brands will talk. Agencies will talk. See, brands kind of have more leverage because they already know they should work with agencies that help them on these influencer campaigns. So just by the nature of how they do things, they're already savvy to how much you charge maybe to another brand. This is why for me, I always advocate creators, know your rate and charge your rate. I should like coin that, like have a t-shirt, right? Because if you if you lower your rate, you think that, oh, no one's going to find out about that. I'm just going to, no, someone might find out about it. So say you're working at another brand. Maybe you worked at this other agency. Now you work for this brand and you remember that conversation. Guess what you might do? You're like, oh, I know they'll take less because they took less last time. It's like, oh, but they've grown. No, trust me. Like, I'll play it out just like we wrote in the email last time or whatever. This is what happens. And they talk like this. The mistake, I'd say, the short answer here, most creators think brands, agencies want to play fair. No, they're in it to make as much money as possible, have the least amount of expensive, the most amount of profit, and that's how it is. So if they can get someone to do it for less, they will. Just like you should be able to make the decision not to do something if they can't pay your rate or charge the highest rate that you know that's justified value and be comfortable saying that, knowing that, guess what? If they can't afford it, you've got to pass. That's just how it is. And too many creators, they take the route of, hey, I just want more deals, even if it's trade, versus being the creators like, you know what? I'm going to just be patient. I'll get my time, get my opportunity. Yeah, I have to pass on all these kind of things. But then when you have the right brand that wants to connect with your audience, you get that payday. And what you'll find is it's better to do one big payday than 10 small ones, especially if they're all free or trade deals.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I've learned that lesson too, not too long ago. And yeah, so it's because sometimes I think as creators you can fall in the loop of like, well, I really want to work with this brand, but I'm not going to get paid. But it's just like the name of it. But like you said, you have to be able to stand back and be like, no, because this is where my worth is, and I know as like a content creator who just started like a year and a half ago, passing up on something is tough, like you said. But if you have taught me that this is what I'm worth, and I have to say no to some deals, and I've learned that.
And most creators, guess what? They don't learn that. And even if they do learn it or hear it from someone like me or maybe another creator, they're still too afraid to be like, this is my rate. And they're like afraid of the rejection, so they don't even try. And I've surprised myself. I've like said numbers before because they're justified, but still they were higher than when I started. When I first started, we charged like $50 in 2008. I thought that was a lot because we were doing free stuff forever. Okay, when I say forever, like a year or whatever. So when I went from $50 to $100, I was like, yeah, Amazing. So
Doubled your rate.
So when we signed our first multiple 6-figure deal, think about how my mind was blown. Like, I could not have even fathomed that would even happen to me. That was like a slow build to that. But what I always did was like, number one, I understood my value and I always valued myself. But more importantly, like you do, John, every single day, I always leveled up my content. I always leveled up my business. I always got better and I grew and I learned new skills. You know, like as things are shifting, I wasn't just continuing to do it the old way. I was like, what's the new way to do it? How can I learn from these younger creators or these newer creators like you? And I just build on my foundation from before versus just relying on that. It doesn't stay the same because guess what? I'm in it 10 years. I've got this certain rate. There's this newbie, right? That's, living at home with their parents, not married, no kids, no bills, no nothing. And they're just like having a lot of fun. And yeah, they might undercut you. They might get as many views or that is capitalism at work. And it happens. If you do not do that, like if you do not understand that and accept that, you'll be left in the dust because like, I should be charging this much, only as much as the market values that rate. And the way we were always able to raise our rates for years, for like literally almost forever, was we always got better. We always justify it with more views, with more engagement. And also there's a whole bunch of other things. If you want to know more about that, connect with me, go to vloggingacademy.com. In my course, we talk about this kind of stuff, brand deals, whatever. Obviously come to my events too. So any last thoughts, John? I mean, you're welcome to ask another question if you have one.
No, I think that was like the big one that I just wanted to be able to ask and be able to have a proof of like, oh, someone who's been doing it in the game for a while in that discourse, because that conversation is like rumbling through all of the platforms right now. And I've even had like smaller content creators like DM me about certain things as well. And like, so, I think, and for me, I was like, hey, like, obviously I answer it with open and honesty, and then I always refer them to, hey, there's possibly an upcoming event that we had, like the Seattle Content Creator Summit, possibly coming up next year. So just stay tuned. Then that's a good way to where we're all gonna connect. And I think, and I've been like ingraining that in people's heads, and people like you kind of started to get excited about it.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, John. Appreciate you. And if you're a creator that's listening to this podcast, don't be shy. We want you in here. We want this to be a conversation. By the way, you're welcome to hang out if you want, or continue to listen on. You can literally text me and say, hey, I got another question. This is what I'm here for. So I guess I'll talk to you later unless you're hanging out with us.
Check out Corteezyy's stuff on TikTok. Corteezyy. Is that right? If I remember correctly?
Yeah, Eezyy, yeah.
And then also on Instagram at same spelling of Corteezyy, but with John in front of it, right?
Yeah, appreciate you guys. No, yeah, I actually have to go. I'm actually gonna go shoot a brand deal now.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. John Corteezyy. Crushing it. Really appreciate you. And yes, John and I have connected through other creator events. I'm hosting my next Seattle Creator Summit right now. And obviously would love to have you, John. We're going to collaborate on some stuff. But that is the best way, better than even me, to learn about what is going on, how much you should charge, how much are other people charging, because this is exclusive for creators. I don't just invite everybody and anybody, definitely not agencies. I mean, partly because I've got my own agency, but really because I know creators trust each other more than anybody. At least I feel like the really good ones. Other people are afraid to share information. Nothing wrong with that, but you're going to learn more when you share more and you come to those kind of creator events. So if you are listening to this somewhere else, go to whatever you've got.
No, of course. No, yeah. And thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. And thank you for answering my question, guys.
Of course. See you soon.
Later.
Bye, guys.